All right. Welcome to episode 18. That's right, 18 of DAO Talk. This is your one-stop shop for everything DAOs. I'm Tommy.
And I'm Frisson.
And let's get right into it. All right. A previous topic we've talked about probably like about a month ago was the tribe DAO. Well, it's unwinding. But then there was the hack that we talked about on an even earlier episode that was, resurfaced in recent weeks as Tribe DAO unwinds from this user on Twitter, Shadow Legend, spelled very interestingly. But we'll link the proposal that was discussed a few weeks ago. But the proposal passed, and this has to do a lot with governments bribing. In my mind, this was a proposal to repay the victims of the hack of the Rari Fuse hack, but at the same time, while people are being made whole, which is, I would say, objectively probably a good thing. This is has more implications than just people being made whole from a hack. It has to do with governments bribing, what's right, what's wrong, what does this mean for the future of this space, if something like this is possible. So we talked about it on previous episodes, and we'll link those discussions and clips as well. But Frisson, what are your thoughts on this for the space as a whole, and what this means more than just making people whole from a hack?
First of all, let me just start by saying I'm so sad to see Tribe go, if for no other reason than they were one of the biggest power users of Tally. Nowadays, we have a lot of power users, but man, they'd be using all the features. They were into Tally, and we can see Tally is being used heavily all the way to the bitter end. So shout out to Tribe for using Tally and RIP, and shout out to Olympus for using Tally for this initiative. Now, with that being said, this is definitely vote bribing. If you take a look at this particular situation, like you described, Tommy, I can sort of understand where Olympus is coming from in terms of how this proposal actually kind of makes the incentives more aligned between all the participants. So there was agreement in the DAO to repay smallholders from the Fuse hack, but there are some large DAOs which also have a holder base that kind of depends on the DAO treasury and are interests in and of themselves, most notably Olympus and Frax, that were not going to get paid back. And they made a proposal that basically tried to sort of redistribute some of the value from Olympus being paid back to people who voted for the proposal. So you delegate your tokens to Olympus, they vote for the proposal passes, and then Olympus passes some of that funding back to the people who voted for them. I think in this particular case, it's sort of relatively harmless, and also potentially a more optimal outcome for most participants than not. But it is potentially concerning to see this type of behavior emerge if you look forward. So first of all, the way they executed this, it wasn't necessarily entirely trustless. It's not really possible to do this in an entirely trustless way. So you're sort of trusting Olympus. If you delegate your tokens and let them vote for this proposal, you really are to some degree trusting Olympus to actually hold up to their word and redistribute some of the value of the tokens that they got repaid back to the people who delegated to them. There's not a way to make that part of the on-chain proposal. So that's one, which is super concerning, because even if Olympus follows up on this, which I expect them to, you could easily see other people not doing that, right? And in fact, we should pull up. There's a proposal on Tally that is an example of where this can go wrong. So Pride Punk's DAO, it's actually a DAO Denison, Tally CEO started. Now it's run by some folks from the community. It's a very OG CryptoPunks derivative that's focused on diversity and inclusion in the crypto space. And someone tried to attack the treasury. So they have a treasury of not a huge, but a meaningful amount of ETH. and someone submitted a proposal that basically says, okay, we're going to like kill this project. We're going to transfer the entire treasury to me. And if you do that, I will repay you afterwards, not in a way that's tied to this proposal, some of the ETH that goes to my wallet. And I think he did some behind the scenes work to like buy up a bunch of Pride punks to make this proposal more likely to pass, possibly even like some behind the scenes bribing into the existing Pride punks holder base. So very similar proposal. So what's the difference? Like, why is this one sketchier potentially than what Olympus did? Number one, CryptoPunks intends to be an ongoing project. So it's less scary in the case of Tribe because like it's sort of like everyone is kind of like having a knife fight over the end, right? Redistributing kind of what happened at the end. Whereas like there's a community that intends to continue the project, right? And so you can sort of see like a negative, impact of kind of just raiding the treasury in this case. And then second of all, like Olympus is somewhat of like a trusted entity in crypto. Like they have done what they said they were going to do many times in public around like the team, and like Shadow in particular is someone of a trusted person. No one knows who this proposer is, right? And like, do we think Bloop Maxi.eth is going to actually send the funds back after he gets the entire treasury diverted to himself? Maybe. I wouldn't count on it personally. And so this is just like a really good example of where like this is actually a very similar proposal to what Olympus did, but like I think is pretty clearly not good. And where this type of like vote bribing-ish type behavior can really go wrong. For more on this, you should Google Vitalik coin voting. And he has like a whole article about like where financialization of voting in crypto can go wrong and what some of the potentially unintended outcomes of that are. So anyway, just thought these are really interesting examples to dig into in terms of like us trying to figure out the right governance model going forward. And we'll continue to watch for interesting stuff like this on an ongoing basis.
Do you have any like opinions on, what do you think is a solution to this? Or is it more of like, hey, we're all just kind of figuring it out? And Vitalik would probably be a good place to go read about that.
Yeah, I think Vitalik's call to action is just like try other stuff. I don't think he has the answer either. Like if you read the article and listen to his more recent comments, I think so. I think that I don't have the answer as to how to like prevent stuff like this, or maybe even allow some level of like bribing that could potentially be like pro-social or have positive externalities to occur, where like versus like not allowing bad bribing. Like I don't think we have all the answers to that. I do think that a big part of it is education, right? Like just this conversation that we're having right now. It's like a really key point in all of this is that the bribe payout, right? It can't be enforced on chain trustlessly as part of the proposal. And so like what I would say to everyone who is listening to this and tell your friends, don't vote. Like you should be very careful voting for things where like you're promised something, but the thing that you're promised is not actually happening in the proposal that is specifically being voted on. So I think like that's one where it's like, I would be very hesitant to encourage anything along the lines of this type of thing where the promise that is being made can't actually be enforced on chain. So just educating people about kind of the difference between something that's trustless versus not, what's happening on chain versus what's not, I think is a big step. And yeah, I think there do need to be ways to weight votes based on like people's level of commitment to kind of the mission of the DAO on some level. I do think we need to unlock that. So like, I think in an ideal world, if you use the Pride Punks DAO, there's kind of this like one NFT, one vote dynamic. But you have people that are there to try to sort of like take as much economic advantage of the situation as possible versus people who are there because they want to achieve a mission. And I think everyone should be able to have a vote, because I think the economically motivated actors like do matter to some degree in the system. But I think projects should basically have the ability to say like, okay, this is what we're trying to accomplish, and we have some way to know based on your like on-chain history or your verified address or your Disco data backpack that you're kind of like aligned with what we're trying to do, and have some way to like weight votes in a way that can't, like, that vote weighting is very difficult to financialize. I think that kind of thing is really important for sure.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to education. Like having these conversations, tweeting about it. I think that's why Vitalik is so, he's kind of taken this role of like thought leadership, because people listen to him and he has probably the biggest following in all of crypto. So, it's just education and reading about it. And, it's something we're going to be talking about ad nauseum forever, because, it is like at the crux of everything we're doing. And something I always talk about is like, if it's not on chain, I don't want it. And it's something I'm becoming more and more zealous about. Like, what's the point if it's not on chain?
And like, I do think, I will say, Shadow, like Olympus, they tried to make this as trustless as possible. I know this in particular because they like reached out to Tally, and we like, tried to help them like do this in a way that was like as transparent and as trustless as possible. So again, like, I think I want to be careful, because I think what they're trying to do makes sense at face value here, like on some level. I just think it's super dangerous. And in particular, like, same situation, different organization is probably quite bad.
Yeah, I think like in this, like we'll bring it home here. Like, I think in this specific case, something we started talking about and we both clarified, like, yeah, it's probably net good for everyone involved, right? I don't think what we're saying is like necessarily a shot on Olympus and Shadow, but we have to think about, the long tail consequences of this and what this means long term, and like what we can do to potentially mitigate the, downsides of this, governance model. So I don't know if there's anything you want to end on there.
No, but since you brought up Vitalik, maybe we should hop there and talk about that we've referenced this problems with coin voting piece that Vitalik did many times, but that piece is actually quite old at this point. I think it came out last year sometime, and over a year ago, last summer plus. Man, I've been in space for a while. I remember digging into that. My wife and I were driving home from a trip, and I like made her listen to it in podcast form. Well, Bankless did an interview with Vitalik about it. I made her listen to it, and she was actually kind of interested. I was like, oh, thank God. Anyway, that was a while ago. Been doing this for a while now. So Vitalik is out with some hot new DAO thought leadership. Vitalik's DAO thought leadership is funny because like most people's DAO thought leadership is like, DAOs should be DAOs, not corporations. And he's out here drawing graphs and like doing math and shit. So like shout out to Vitalik for being way smarter than almost everyone else. And definitely me. But yeah, this piece is really, really good. So we have talked a lot, Tommy and I have, as well as like Tally and kind of the Tally community, a lot about the importance of decentralization and how like, we talked about this last week. Like, I like the word DAO. I think decentralization means something. I think autonomy means something. I think people interpret decentralization and autonomy in a very narrow way. So they say, oh, decentralization, like it's not like Bitcoin, or autonomy. The code doesn't just like self-run all the time, again, like Bitcoin. But these things can mean different things. Decentralization and autonomy can be about people, right? To what extent do the contributors in the DAO truly, operate in a decentralized way, and do they have the ability to act and contribute autonomously? And he like Vitalik really defends this idea of decentralized DAOs, and how like really tries to go first principles on why we should think of DAOs as different than corporations, and kind of what those important distinctions are, and kind of why, like, what is the value prop of decentralization in a DAO. So yeah, I'll dig into that more, but want to pass it back to you, Tommy. What were your thoughts on this article?
What I really like about this article is this focus on a concave worldview versus a convex worldview. And it gets to the crux of the issue of a DAO, which is, not one person is making a decision, right? It's a group of people making a decision. Now, some DAOs, or almost all DAOs, should be, something that has to do, with a concave worldview, right? Where, option A and option B, two different sides of the spectrum. And if you're looking at it on a graph, it's an upside down U, which means if you compromise, you meet in the middle, the outcome is going to be higher. Whereas if you switch it and it's convex, if you have option A and option B and you move towards the middle, the level of, effectiveness of the outcome is going down, right? So for instance, like he has some good examples, what were some good examples from this?
Yeah. So, I think if you scroll down, his examples of concave decision is like judicial decisions, public goods funding, and tax rates. So basically the idea is like, the decisions around like, public goods funding, like the two extremes where, if there's like two promising projects, one of them gets all the funding or the other one gets all the funding, is less likely to be optimal than if you have some level of distribution between the two projects. And that's like partially because there's like diminishing marginal returns on the money that's given to each project. Like, if it's $1 million, you give $1 million to one project, $1 million to the other project, they're both promising. You're probably going to get net more benefit by giving $500,000 to each project because they sort of like are able to get more utility out of that first $500,000 than either project would be on the second $500,000 that you gave to them. So that's just a basic example. I would argue like, this is a very like academic way of describing it, but basically like, I think most DAOs, like if you think about social clubs or, more like, like NFT DAOs or even investment DAOs, like, basically any form of like community with a token where there's like this open ability to contribute. I think this is what they're looking for. Like if you really dig in and ask like, why a DAO? Why are you doing this as a DAO as opposed to like a formal nonprofit or like a normal startup, right? I think the answer comes down to some variation of this. Like probably most people aren't going to be like, we're trying to make concave decisions, but like they believe that like by allowing more people who are attracted to the project from anywhere in the world, no matter who they are, to get involved and shape the direction, help allocate funds, they're actually going to get like kind of that mix of decision and contribution. They're going to end up getting better outcomes. So that would be my take, is sort of like this concave decision making is kind of the answer to like why social DAOs or why investment clubs, like why DAOs that are just collections of people trying to allocate resources and like do stuff together. I think it's because there are a lot of things in this world that are concave in nature. Like the policy outcomes are better when there's kind of like this mix or diversity of people who are coming into the mix to contribute. And that's kind of like, yeah, that's kind of the why DAO there. Want to quickly touch on the next two value props. So, the next one listed in the article is censorship resistance. So censorship resistance is an essential part of the value proposition for many crypto projects. This is a little bit different. So like we talked about social DAOs, investment clubs, etc. In our last example, I do not think censorship resistance is like a top 3 most important thing for those types of DAOs. However, when we're talking about the Uniswap protocol, when we're talking about essential DeFi infrastructure like Aave or MakerDAO, censorship resistance is often like a top, if not the top, value proposition for those DeFi protocols. Any DeFi protocol that becomes like a default way of transacting or using Ethereum is almost part of Ethereum itself. And it, like, if you want to retain that top spot as a protocol, you have to be censorship resistant, or ultimately the community will adopt something else that actually is. And so anyway, like, you'll, like, if there's two parts to this, right? So one is like, censorship resistance is best done in a decentralized way. Like, that's a big part of what decentralization enables. You sort of like, there's like different groups and people are able to contribute like autonomously without having sort of like one choke point that the government or someone else can attack. But the other part is, like, why do you need governance at all, right? It's like, oh, well, we should just like make the protocol and just like leave it alone. No governance. Don't touch it. The answer to that is threefold, actually. One is like maintenance or upgrades. Maybe you just like want to make Uniswap v3, which is way cooler. And you like, or maybe you need to like change something about Uniswap v2 or v3. The next one is public goods funding. So like, if there are like excess economic resources being generated by the protocol, like, you want to think about how to sort of like redistribute those in sort of like a pro-social way, or even in just a way that benefits the protocol. And last one is more specific. It kind of ties into maintenance and upgrades, but it's the Oracle problem. So we did an interview with Amin from Reflexor Finance, which will come out in the next month. And he talked about how they have to have some level of governance for Reflexor Finance, which governs RAI, which is sort of like the most decentralized stablecoin on Ethereum, because they use an Oracle. Right now they use a Chainlink Oracle. And like, they need to sort of like, maybe Chainlink comes up with a better Oracle, or there's a totally different Oracle system that they might need to add or change over time. And so for that reason, there has to be some level of governance built into the protocol. And this is true of like many or most protocols. So it's like, if you want censorship resistance, but you need governance, which is like often true, then a truly decentralized organization is the right approach. So that's the censorship resistance piece. And then the last part, or like the last value prop that Vitalik mentions, is fairness, or credible neutrality. This one, I think, is like very salient for anyone in crypto. So for this one, I'll give the example of Content Guild. We've talked about Content Guild. Tommy and I are part of Tally's marketing department. And right now, Tally is a normal company, like a centralized startup, VC-funded startup. But we want to start to DAOify Tally's marketing, and we're doing that via a DAO called Content Guild. And the reason we want to do this, like, in my opinion, there's two reasons. One is like, we just want to learn about DAOs and like use Tally's product and kind of contribute on the product side that way. But the other one, I actually think, boils down to this credible neutrality angle. And as like in crypto, right, like the clearest path to distribution is partnerships. So like on the content side, right, you can't really like buy impressions right now in crypto. Like, you can't like do targeted advertising to people who do DAOs or are interested in DAOs. Like, there aren't enough of them. It doesn't really work. The best way to reach people who are into DAOs is other people who are into DAOs, because it's a small community that is highly networked. And so if you really want to get distribution on your content and your marketing, you need to partner with other people who are interested in DAO stuff, if you're Tally. And those people are going to be much more likely to, the more credible neutrality and the more open and transparent you make your content efforts, the more likely other people are going to be to partner with you and help distribute your content. And I think that is true, like, across the board in crypto. Like, almost any product or organization, the more you're able to like imbue the ability of like anyone to get involved in the system and benefit it from it relatively equally to everyone else who's involved, the easier it's going to be for you to basically go to market and get product adoption. So I think that's one very clear example or like application of the value prop of credible neutrality. So yeah, Vitalik really breaks this down from first principles. I think it's really, really valuable article to kind of anchor back to when you're thinking about why DAOs, why decentralization.
It's the question of Do we DAO? Should we DAO? Like, what is the purpose of what is the mission of our organization? And something we talked about last week that I think like this kind of like perfectly touches on is like, do we think everything should be a DAO? And I think the answer is no, but I think DAOs are still for everybody, right? It's just a matter of deciding, what is your mission? What is your goal? And what is the best way to achieve it? And like, as we say in almost every episode, it comes back to education and understanding, what is available to you? What are the tools that are available to you? And how do you use them properly? And that's what we're here for. And that's what people like Vitalik are here for. And something Frisson and I talk about, like, just from like on a personal level is like, when you're offering up, thoughts and leadership, and social media and your discords, just with individuals, maybe even outside of crypto, it's like, yeah, like address the problems, but also provide solutions. And if you don't know a solution, like, admit you don't know it. Don't just, shit on the space for no reason and then not provide a solution. I think, when we, there's so much collective brain power in the space. And I think that's why, like, you tweeted something today. It's like it was like a meme, but like, it was like, nuke it to zero. Like, I don't care. Like, I found my tribe. Like, I'll be here no matter what. And I think, that is why, I feel very confident and like secure in, what we're doing because, and then, we've been in I think we started the podcast like right as the bear market started and it has not ended and we're 18 episodes in. Like, I think the reason that like, we're so successful and everyone in the space, is relatively successful is like, we're all very much, of the same mindset and we're here for the long term. And I think a big part of that is remembering like I always talk about like blurring the line between competition and collaboration. Like we're all in it for the same reason. And I mean, hopefully, and we just, got to provide solutions over just, shitting on stuff. So, all right.
Shout out to Vitalik. Thanks
for shout out Vitalik.
Articulating why decentralization matters in DAOs. Like, we really appreciate it, man. That dude, he's not right all the time, like anyone, right? But man, like, it's crazy the breadth, right? Like, this is a good take. Like, when most people who don't spend full time on DAOs come in and offer these types of takes, like, they're usually pretty bad, just to be honest with you. And like, this is money. This is like cash money. Like, he's right on the mark, which is baller. Cool. Well, we should probably we really went deep on those two, which hopefully was helpful. Like the Olympus proposal, and kind of vote bribing as a topic. And then this idea of like, why decentralization, why DAOs. Hopefully that was helpful for the crew, but we should probably kind of tap through our next couple of, things real quick and get you on out of here because we've been DAO talking for a bit now.
Yeah, let's run through some of honestly some good action on Tally, some new DAOs on Tally. Frisson, I know you're a little bit more involved with Spells DAO. They just launched on Tally maybe like 2 days ago, and from my perspective, I talk a lot about design and like this design gets me turns me on a little bit. I really like it.
Yo, it's hot. It's too bad this social preview right here, this image, like it's just the Tally logo, but we fixed a bug that would have made it their logo. We're trying to make our social previews way cooler so that projects like branding comes through when they send people to Tally. Anyway, if you look at a new link on Twitter from Hypervisor from Spells DAO, you'll see this hot ass branding. So anyway, Spells DAO is super cool because it's a nouns fork. We're really working hard to make Tally more useful for these NFT DAOs. I think nouns is sort of like the most important NFT DAO by a basically infinite amount. Like they are the NFT DAO right now. It's very early in the space. We've been going deeper. We've been going deeper there on the content side. We just had a newsletter come out this week from Thanos, the Tally newsletter, and he's really deep on NFT DAOs, covering a lot of what's happening in the space. This week's issue is on Nouns Builder. So we're trying to help the community more. On the product side, like we've really worked hard to make Tally compatible with the Nouns DAO, like one NFT, one vote governor implementation. And Spells DAO is just an example of like exactly what we're trying to do. So they forked Nouns DAO. They have this one NFT, one vote. There's like art imbued kind of into the governance token, which is also the NFT. And it's super sick. Like they chose to use Tally. They're using Tally for governance, like on-chain governance. We also are starting to support like different governance mechanisms that are like earlier on in the process. Prior to the formal on-chain vote, like off-chain proposals and polls, they use Tally's off-chain proposals to decide whether to organize one of their community initiatives on Discord or Twitter. So we love to see it. The community is stoked, and we've already like gotten a bunch of product feedback from them and made several changes to improve their experience, and more to come here. Nouns forks use Tally. Nouns has an incredible governance front end, but I think for most projects, like it's pretty high barrier to like build your own and maintain your own, perhaps most importantly, governance front end. So check out Tally, hit us up if there's something that doesn't like quite work. But yeah, we want to support all the nouns forks, which I think there will be more of going forward. Going back to the Tally newsletter issue, Thanos wrote it about Nouns Builder, which is basically like, it's kind of like the governor, like what's the name of the governor wizard, where you can sort of make governor contracts easily, with changing certain variables, but optimized for the nouns, like one FT, one vote, paradigm. So I think this tool, Nouns Builder, which Jacob from Zora and like Zora in general is working on, should really enable more NFT DAOs, more nouns forks. And we want to make sure that Tally is a great place for those people to do their governance thing.
Yeah. So we have a lot more to cover, but we went too deep on some topics. So if you are not subscribed to the DAO Talk newsletter, which comes out Monday, so 2 days after DAO Talk releases, we put all the extra stuff we don't get to cover in that newsletter, and we'll break that down. Provide links to everything we've already talked about, break that down as well. So if you ever missed the podcast or just want to, get a little bit of extra information that comes out Mondays, we'll link that in the show notes. That's daotalk.substack.com. Otherwise, we have Content Guild community call right after this every week. So we record DAO Talk, then we jump straight into our Content Guild Discord, which is now token gated with Guild. So if you want to contribute to that, reach out to one of us on Twitter or reach out to someone that is in the Content Guild, and you can learn how to get involved with that. Otherwise, Frisson, you have any closing thoughts?
No, absolutely not. It's DAO cuffing season. The DAO seasons don't stop. Obviously it's tough out there right now from a price perspective. We're seeing timber, we're going down to Goblin Town, we're grunting, but DAOs are growing faster than ever, honestly, like for real. And Tally, like, it's very exciting to be part of Tally at this time, because I think like on-chain governance and also Tally as a product are really hitting their sweet spot right now. And we're seeing a ton of growth and adoption in the DAO space. So if you're a DAO builder, like keep doing your thing, because we're going to come out of the other side of this in a really great place. So thanks for doing you. Thanks for enabling us to keep doing DAO Talk, and we'll see you out there in the streets and the tweets.
Oh yeah. Make sure to, tweet us. Even if it's not about DAO, just tweet us about, random stuff. Like Frisson tweets about random shit all the time. So do I. At 0x Frisson, that's Frisson, and then at Tommy Lowers. It's like lower, which people make jokes about my portfolio being lower, which is so uncool. But otherwise, no, we're not talking about my portfolio.
I mean, look, dog, it was true until you bought a ROG like I told you to. I gave you that Pudgy Penguins alpha. Next thing you know, you're making a bag in the bear market. What can I say, dude?
Not going to lie, like all my losses were, my P&L went from red to green real fast when Frisson gave me some, alpha on Pudgy Penguin ROGs. So not financial advice.
That's the power of the ROG, bro. Look, hit us up on Twitter. I'm always on Twitter. We're in Content Guild, but that's a closed Discord. You need to contribute to Tally's content. Then we'll let you in, hit you with that contributor NFT. Maybe you can join GM House Official. I'm up in there. I'm dropping GMs. So just like hit me up, rehash DAO. Let's hang out.
Yeah, I'm in Rehash, Content Guild, and then my Shiny Discord. If you're in there, hit me up. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Peace.
Yeah, peace.